in the 10 great sects in comparison to the transformation path itself. These permanent changes to the shadow changed the physical body as a result. While it didn't create a new race of variant humans, these additional beast-like characteristics were reminiscent of beastmen, hairy men and even mermen to some degree. They were not considered inherently evil or demonic, just looked down upon by mortal GU masters. Xuanyuan didn't share the opinion, knowing that variant humans carried within them natural Dao marks and a far greater innate lifespan than humans, knowing that despite their innate talent being lower than humanity's, they possessed other qualities that bridged the difference. Long hair ancestor lived for more than 300,000 years, while primordial origin immortal Venerable, the longest living Venerable, lived for barely 25,000 years. While it was true that the existence of a Venerable would decrease the amount of lifespan GU in the GU world, long hair ancestor lived during the time of thieving heaven and giant sun. And yet, he still lived 10 times the length of primordial origin. Variant humans were also things that Xuanyuan desired to explore. He knew that human path could be cultivated using both humans and variant humans, and wanted to see the difference between using just humans, just variant humans, and both together. At any rate, the outer sect new disciple tournament is just a week away. If I can refine the 9 eyes shadow GU, the potency of my shadow path GU will increase, albeit to a certain point. I wanted to see if I could purchase expanding shadow GU, but I think I reached my limit in terms of master's generosity. He already spent a few thousand primeval essence stones on all my GU and GU materials, and this was for multiple copies of everything, just to ensure I had backups. Xuanyuan planned on refining his shadow eyes GU into 9 shadow eyes GU before the tournament. It would be one of his trump cards in the tournament, alongside dense shadow blade GU and bright red light GU. Shadow stinger GU and silhouette strings GU were also viable, and his main offensive damage source considering they required less primeval essence. Elder Luo had promised to watch over Xuanyuan during his refinement, and he agreed to let Elder Hu and Elder Kong know about the GU recipe Xuanyuan had deduced. Apparently, both would be present, alongside Elder Gong from the Refinement Soul Hall. Hearing that Elder Gong would be present, Xuanyuan unconsciously sweated a little bit, knowing that Elder Gong didn't know Xuanyuan was the disciple of Elder Luo, instead of a potential member of the Sky Soul Hall under Elder Kong. He had told Elder Luo about his encounter, alongside the fact that he had deduced the recipes for Shadow Stinger GU and Formless Shadow GU and handed them both into the sect. His master muttered something about monsters before patting him on the shoulder, waving him off. I'll handle Elder Gong, but you should have told me earlier. That old fart will hound me to the moon and back for you, little Yuan. If I had known you had a talent for the refinement path earlier, I would have done something about it as well. Refinement path GU masters distinctly lacked combat strength. The depth of their power lied within the refinement of GU, and subsequently, the refinement of immortal GU. Immortal GU were the strength behind GU immortals, and without them, the combat power of GU immortals dropped significantly. It gave Elder Luo a little bit more confidence in Xuanyuan completing this refinement, considering he had done it at least twice before. GU refinement was extraordinarily difficult, as there were as many ways to combine GU or GU materials as there were GU and GU materials. Even unique immortal GU, which were formed from the heavens and the earth or through immortal ascension, were considered a type of GU refinement, although were governed by heaven's will. Xuanyuan wasn't a master, so he relied heavily on shadows as thought GU to speed up his deductions, creating a seemingly infinite number of shadow thoughts to chase down every possibility and increase every chance that his refinement would be a success. Xuanyuan also wanted to see what effect 9 eyes shadow GU would have on shadows as thought GU. The latter was a rank 5 GU, but dwelled within his shadow and not his primeval essence C. If something changed, or in this instance, was added to Xuanyuan's shadow, how would shadows as thought GU react? Little Shadow only had this to say. I am a big shadow. I don't have to listen to what a baby shadow has to say. And that was the end of that conversation. Xuanyuan spent the rest of his day meditating, not using his primeval essence or shadows as thought GU to create more shadow thoughts. He wanted his mind pure and undiluted by external influences while he was refining GU. Not an emotion, thought or piece of will out of place. Xuanyuan, through shadow eyes GU, could see that Elder Hu, Elder Kong and Elder Gong had arrived within Elder Luo's residence. Letting out a deep breath of turbid air, Xuanyuan exited his study before making his way to Elder Luo's personal refinement room. The 4 elders just followed Xuanyuan silently, Elder Gong in particular understanding that Xuanyuan wanted his mindset to be as calm and controlled as possible, projecting that image into his GU refinement. Glancing at Elder Luo, Elder Gong just gnashed his teeth knowing that Xuanyuan had tricked him, and that there was no way that Elder Luo would give up this precious disciple of his. After hearing about this refinement from Elder Kong, the Refinement Soul Hall elder dug a little bit in Xuanyuan's background, and realized that Xuanyuan had been directly recruited by Luo Yu. He's a Shadow Path GU master, and that old fart of a Space Path GU master wants to teach him about refinement. Such a precious genius in the refinement path needs to be nurtured and taken care of. He's wasting his talent under Elder Luo. I know that Elder Kong might not approve, but if I petition Immortal Gong then perhaps I can recruit Xuanyuan into the Refinement Soul Hall. Elder Gong showed a devious smile, which was caught by Elder Hu and Elder Kong. The Refinement Soul Hall elder was harmless, but knew that the old man had a number of tricks up his sleeve. If Xuanyuan failed, he could come to his aid and help him refine the GU recipe further. If he succeed, it gave him all the more reason to bring him into the Refinement Soul Hall. It was a win-win situation either way. Elder Hu rolled her eyes at the old man, showing a small smile, her attention still focused on Xuanyuan through the one-way window into the refinement room. Elder Luo had to commission this window solely to watch Xuanyuan refine his vital GU, and had asked his fellow elders to accompany him in order to make sure nothing went wrong. The 4 rank 5 GU masters watched as Xuanyuan prepared his GU and GU materials for almost an hour before muttering something almost imperceptible under his breath. There is nothing more I can do to prepare myself, he whispered. The elders watched as all the light in the refinement room vanished, leaving nothing more than the faint glimmer of lunar light GU to illuminate the room. The faint trickle of moonlight fell down from the ceiling like a veil of silver water, bathing Xuanyuan in the faint light. Elder Luo didn't move his eyes away from Xuanyuan, watching as he smeared GU material after GU material on his body, not missing a single piece of skin, muttering something quietly to the other 3 beside him. You 3 all saw the GU recipe he came up with, right? Elder Hu nodded first, her eyes not moving away from Xuanyuan's figure. It was hard to believe that a 15-year-old GU master came up with it. Despite showing us the memory of Xuanyuan explaining it to you, such a raw talent from someone so young, it makes it hard to believe that he is just a boy. Elder Guo nodded as well. He understands the essence of the human isolation style of GU refinement. Refining GU within the body, even if it is a rank 1 GU, is extraordinarily ambitious. Even with a vital GU, the backlash could be enough to potentially maim him. Despite this, however, it gives him the greatest amount of control over his materials in GU. In fact, because it is his vital GU, I dare say this is why Xuanyuan came up with such a strategy. How so, Gongyang? Elder Luo asked. The relationship between a living being and their shadow is a reflection, that much I understand. Whatever happens to one is reflected in the other, to a degree at least. The human isolation style refines GU within the body, but what Xuanyuan is trying to do is use GU to refine the body. Each nurture the other, not just one pulling the other along. This 9 eyes shadow GU that Xuanyuan has come up with is quite an interesting little GU. The other 3 elders remained silent at that. Needless to say, if this refinement was a success, it would be the start of Xuanyuan's legacy. His own GU, refined with his own hard work and ingenuity. A rank 2 GU master creating a GU. Such a thing had only been done by those who had founded a path, or those few who had become venerable. None of them wanted to presume such a thing, but in the face of such extraordinary talent, none of them could not help but think of the fabled rank 9. There had been prophecies relating to future venerables, the most famous of which being the prophecy of 3 venerables, which predicted the coming of spectral soul demonic venerable, paradise earth immortal venerable, and great dream immortal venerable. Yi Yan, who had predicted the next 3 venerables, had currently been correct on 2 counts. His prophecy had been taken as gospel by some GU masters, leading them to research anything relating to dreams, hoping to become the next great dream immortal venerable. Other wisdom path GU immortals had tried to deduce future venerables, but failed, the only exception being a mysterious GU immortal from the southern border. This mysterious GU immortal had been born after Paradise Earth immortal venerable had passed, and spread his own prophecy about an era of numerous venerables, each region giving rise to a venerable, one after the other. Some dismissed the claim as ridiculous, not daring to take it seriously. But this particular GU immortal had given hints into the paths that each venerable would walk. Great dream, blessed by fate, thou shalt rule over the heavenly court. Guided by love, thou shalt become the mother of life and death. Divine rain, boundless water stretching beyond the 9 heavens, flourishing yellow apricots shall blossom throughout the 5 regions. Archfiend, thou shalt carry the weight of 9 suns, pulling them towards moon in thy heart. Inheritor of 2 venerables. Cold annihilation, the descent of a transcient eternity, freezing the 9 seas and swallowing 9 million souls. White shadow, comprehending heaven and earth, thou shalt proclaim all things in the universe as shadows. Most didn't take the claim seriously, considering it to be a hoax, however. Single quote ... It has to be a lie, it just has to be. An era of 5 venerables. There has only ever been a maximum of 3 during any given era, and now people believe that multiple venerables will exist in the next few 100,000 years. Other than primordial origin and star constellation, no venerable has ever met another venerable face to face. What does this mean for the 10 great sects? What does this mean for the heavenly court? What does this mean for the rest of the 5 regions? Great dream was prophesied to appear after the birth of Paradise Earth immortal venerable, but what about the others? Are they demon venerables or immortal venerables? Just the names Archfiend and Cold Annihilation seem similar to Limitless and Reckless Savage. Are they perhaps similarly fated to become demon venerables? And what of Divine Rain and White Shadow? Are they fated to become immortal venerables? Elder Kong shook his head, remaining silent as he watched Xuan Yuan continue with his refinement. The young man was a paragon of the shadow path. His talent exceeded anything that Elder Kong had ever seen. Even if Xuan Yuan wasn't the future White Shadow immortal venerable, even if the alternative prophecy wasn't true, and even if his destiny didn't allow him to become an immortal, he would still be a pioneer of the shadow path. And so long as his legacy stayed within the ancient soul sect, they could use it to attract the future great dream immortal venerable, if she was born within the central continent. Elder Kong watched with bated breath as Xuan Yuan reached the final stages of his refinement. The essence of more than 70 different kinds of GU materials had been absorbed into his body. Night blood essence, crackling light flower, argent rabbit blood, night hunter rabbit bones, blinding anglerfish eyes, weeping moon petals, freezing shadow worms, black light butterflies, golden shadow essence. All these materials had either been swallowed or absorbed into Xuan Yuan's body. His body burned on one side and felt as though it was freezing on the other, feeling the interaction between dark and light within himself. Black bones GU coated his bones in a dense, anti-corruption material which increased their durability several times that of a mortal. Xuan Yuan couldn't see them, but he could feel the faint traces of dark path down marks within his bones, coursing through them. On the other hand, the light from heart light GU bloomed throughout the rest of his body, illuminating his veins, blood vessels, skin, flesh and bones in a dull golden light. The strength of Xuan Yuan's heart reflected the strength of heart light GU, and his resolve was unbreaking despite the pain he was going through. Shadows were created within Xuan Yuan's body, a combination of black bones GU and heart light GU projecting countless tiny shadows all throughout his flesh, veins and organs. The shadows were sometimes vicious and cruel, biting into Xuan Yuan, while others were kind and nurturing, trying to heal the damage other shadows caused. This was it, Xuan Yuan thought. Xuan Yuan reached for his vital GU, Shadow Eyes GU deep within his primeval essence C. He could see that the little GU was currently asleep despite the pain that he was going through and just smiled, before activating Shadow Hand GU, Push GU, Moon Prison GU, Formless Shadow GU, and a couple other GU within his own body. In the space between his eyes, a small cage of light appeared, Xuan Yuan's vital GU appearing within. Shadow Eyes GU lifted its tiny head and peered at the walls of the cage, looking around, noticing it was alone. Xuan Yuan gritted his teeth, feeling all of the GU activate at once. His blood and organs churned, Formless Shadow GU accelerating the shadows within him towards the cage of light, Shadow Hand GU and Push GU assisting in the compression of shadows, GU materials and primeval essence. The pain that coursed through Xuan Yuan's body slowly started to build up in his head. His eyes turned crimson as the sudden increase in pressure caused the blood vessels in his nose, eyes and ears to pop, creating trails of blood dripping from each of them. But Xuan Yuan persevered, like Renzu and Feng Yuan, he continued, regardless of the pain, and regardless of whether or not his refinement would be a success. The inside of his mouth tasted of blood, but he watched as the shadows tried to resist the pull of his other GU, each of them pulling on a GU material that he had coated himself with, failing and pulling it along with them. A seemingly endless swirl of shadows and GU materials condensed within the tiny cage of light. Shadow Eyes GU seemed energetic at the presence of so many shadows, and under Xuan Yuan's command, started to devour these shadows, still holding onto their GU materials. Seconds seemed like minutes, and minutes seemed like hours to Xuan Yuan before. A resounding boom echoed throughout the refinement hall, and Xuan Yuan, like a doll whose strings had just been cut, fell to the ground, unmoving. Elder Luo and Elder Kong went wide-eyed, and blast through the one-way window carefully making sure that no blast touched Xuan Yuan's body. The former immediately appearing at his disciple's side, placing a hand on his wrist and checking for vital signs. Little Yuan, are you okay? Elder Luo could feel a pulse, but detected no change in Xuan Yuan's condition. His primeval essence C was only about 30% full, and other than the burst blood vessels, he could detect nothing wrong with his disciple. Elder Kong narrowed his eyes at Xuan Yuan for a moment, glancing at the boy before noticing something strange. Despite the fact that the boy was lying down, completely unconscious, his shadow was standing upright, currently, waving at him. The Sky Soul Hall elder let out a small breath of relief, before pointing at the shadow, letting the other elders know the result of the GU refinement. It seems that Xuan Yuan succeeded. He succeeded in creating his own GU. Chapter 27 Abyssal Child. Published by web novel. Xuan Yuan dreamed of a world of shadows. Nothing but ebony-colored skies and obsidian-colored earth. The shadow of the sun radiating a formless heat. The shadow of the moon, releasing a sweet, scented melody. The stars that painted the night sky were boundless, casting shadows across vast stretches of time and space. Fire cast shadows across the land. Oceans, rivers and lakes glistened as shadows swam through the currents. Mountains and valleys rose and fell, their shadows reflecting their lives and deaths. Boundless forests nurtured flowers, trees, herbs and moss, creating a network of intertwined shadows, sharing life and death. Steel and forged iron clashed, igniting sparks across the 5 continents, the shadow of war visible on a distant horizon. The shadows of the past haunted the present, destined to repeat themselves in the future. Time was just a single winding river, carrying all back to the embrace of death. The endless cycle of life and death, birthing a myriad shadows, all of which returned themselves to the same depressing end. Shadows were present with us our entire lives. They felt every emotion we did, felt every piece of pain we did, every shred of happiness and every tiny embarrassment, our love, our hatred, our greed, and our lusts. They were a reflection of all living beings, and walked with us, through the best of times and through the worst. All things in the universe was. Xuan Yuan opened his eyes, immediately noticing the faint rays of light cast across the room. The sensation of familiar blankets against his skin and the scent of mortal candle wax filled his nostrils. Books lined the walls, enormous bookshelves stretching from the floor to the ceiling marred every wall but the entrance to his terrace, the soft glimmer of dawn creeping through his window. Xuan Yuan felt at peace, his mind devoid of any excess thoughts, his physique taut, relaxed, but able to burst with immense strength in an instant. His emotions were fine, and his will had always been refined and controlled. The otherworldly demon felt as though the world seemed brighter. There was so much more in the world that he could suddenly see everything appearing a few shades brighter. Even the shadows in the room seemed much more lively and warm in the face of this bright new day. His own shadow in particular seemed quite happy to see him, waving pleasantly at its reflection. Xuan Yuan blinked for a moment before his eyes went wide and immediately focused his attention on his primeval essence C. The light red color of his primeval essence C glistened as Xuan Yuan scanned its depths, searching for his vital GU. It only took him a moment to notice it. The connection between himself and the GU was closer than any other GU, including shadows as thought GU. The shape and form of Xuan Yuan's new vital GU caused him to unconsciously raise an eyebrow. The wispy form of Nine Eyes Shadow GU resembled himself, albeit covered in numerous blinking eyes. Its size was small, roughly only a few inches in height, but seemed almost otherworldly, given the eyes flowing and moving all over its shadowy body. It unconsciously trilled in Xuan Yuan's presence, causing him to smile, as he realized his refinement was a success. I did it. I created my own GU, he muttered. A wave of joy and jubilation filled Xuan Yuan's chest. His once small smile now threatened to exceed the limits of his head, as the sin of pride gathered in his heart. Xuan Yuan quickly extinguished the notion, reeling his emotions back in. Nine Eyes Shadow GU, a GU that had never existed before today. Xuan Yuan had created something within the GU world. Even if he died today, the sect, possibly even the world, would still remember his creation. Nine Eyes Shadow GU was the first thing that Xuan Yuan had birthed from his comprehension and imagination. Activating the rank 1 GU, Xuan Yuan watched as the length of his shadow stretched and the depth of it darkened. Even without Little Shadow using his shadow to communicate its thoughts to him, Xuan Yuan had never seen his shadow act in such a manner. It mimicked his appearance perfectly, although tiny splotches of darkness swam through the depths of his shadow, flickering rhythmically in time with Xuan Yuan's own blinking. Xuan Yuan could feel the connection between himself and his shadow deepen, and his vision became slightly blurred, the world around him appearing double for a moment. Xuan Yuan quickly closed his eyes, and the double vision stopped, and the world sunk into shades of black and white. Everything around Xuan Yuan gained a black tint or a white shade. His skin, clothes, hair, books, walls, and even the minute dust particles floating through the air all took on a different kind of gray. Looking down, Xuan Yuan could see his own form, shadowy and a reflection of his physical body. Xuan Yuan thought that when his shadow moved, his physical body would be forced to move. However, he could see himself sitting in his bed, unmoving, his eyes moving beneath his eyelids. Single quote ... My consciousness must have temporarily merged with my shadow. Right now, even if we are reflections of the other, that connection has been hijacked by me, and I've assumed control over my shadow. Shadows do not normally possess their own consciousness and merely experience everything that their reflection does. Right now, I am personally experiencing what my shadow is currently experiencing. Xuan Yuan could move his shadow around the room, anywhere where direct light did not touch. Trying to stick his hand into the light was like trying to stick his hand into flames, and cause the hand on his actual body to reel back, steam releasing from his fingertips. While light created shadow, it also had the power to destroy them as well. Dark nurtured shadow, teaching it to conceal itself and how to avoid the light. Xuan Yuan just smiled, despite the pain lingering in his fingertips. Nine Eyes Shadow GU passively enhances my shadow by adding additional eyes qualities to it. This results in the eyesight and visual acuity of my shadow increasing, reflecting back onto my physical body. In addition, Nine Eyes Shadow GU allows me to peer through the many eyes of my shadow, letting me see through it. While not exactly overpowered, if I can obtain a stretching shadow GU or a dusk GU, I should be able to stretch the length of my shadow over a vast distance, increasing the range of my sight. Xuan Yuan also suspected that the Nine Eyes Shadow GU would enhance any shadow path GU that he used, but wasn't sure if it needed to use his shadow as a catalyst. Overall, it might not seem like an overpowered GU, but Xuan Yuan had plans to develop Nine Eyes Shadow GU, far beyond just rank 1. Considering it is one of those cheat GU with a passive and an active effect, developing both, or either ability should be a possible future refinement path. Increasing the number of eyes should increase my own eyesight to levels beyond the limits of regular GU masters. It could increase my field of vision and possibly even correct light refraction like the eyes of an eagle. Increasing it further might give it more conceptual forms of sight, but again, that is just a possibility. Increasing the connection between myself and my shadow might allow me to use GU through my shadow. I already share pain and vision through it, so if I could somehow channel primeval essence through it, I could use it as a ranged form of puppet, capable of fighting under my control. There is always the risk of damage being reflected back at me, so this refinement path is not that useful. I could always just try and figure out a way to turn it into a pure supportive type GU. Using it to increase the number of shadow path Dao marks in my actual shadow should provide a greater enhancement to all my other shadow path GU. Additionally, I could forego the eyes quality and try to enhance other facets of my physical body. I'm not entirely sure how they would affect other GU such as ice muscles GU or jade bone GU, but there has to be some compatible GU between it and my shadow. If I try and refine a 9 heart shadow GU, or a 9 meridian shadow GU, or even something like a 9 blood shadow GU, how would they add qualities to my shadow? 9 heart shadow GU was probably the most ambitious, as the transformation might be more harmful than it was beneficial. If the transformation was perfect, Xuan Yuan would gain 9 hearts, not only increasing his physical capabilities, but also reducing the importance of a single organ. Even if one was destroyed, Xuan Yuan would have 8 more to spare. It made little sense considering if his brain was destroyed, it would be over for him, but that was only if everything went perfectly. If things went pear-shaped, then needless to say, Xuan Yuan might be dead before he realized what actually happened to him. 9 meridian shadow GU and 9 blood shadow GU were both ideas that he had about using the shadow path to mimic the strength path and the blood path. By strengthening the meridians in his shadow, his own body should be strengthened, while if he used the 9 blood shadow GU, the blood in his body should gain some additional quality to it. But that was much later down the track. Xuan Yuan had never refined a rank 2 GU, let alone tried to create a new rank 2 GU recipe. Letting out a deep breath, Xuan Yuan almost didn't notice the door to his room open, Elder Luo and Elder Hu entering his bedroom. The dark splotches in his shadow flickered towards the sound. Xuan Yuan seemed double for a moment before smiling. Master, Elder Hu, I apologize for giving you quite the fright last night. I remember my vision filling up with red and then remember my eardrums bursting. From the looks of things, I must have been healed almost immediately. Xuan Yuan didn't move his gaze from his shadow, but could see Elder Hu glance at Luo Yu. The latter just nodding before taking a seat beside him. The expression on his face was concerned, but Xuan Yuan could see the corners of his mouth threaten to raise as he glanced directly at Xuan Yuan's shadow. Quote ... I see you are already exploring the limits of your new vital GU. I made the decision to hold off on submitting it to the sect, although I'm afraid that it didn't stop Elder Guo from memorizing the processes last night. I'm sure that he has already attempted to refine your 9 eyes shadow GU. The 15-year-old just shrugged, deactivating his GU, lifting his head to face Elder Luo and Elder Hu. The Space Path Elder and the Dark Path Elder gazed at Xuan Yuan with warmth in their eyes, although Elder Hu wasn't nearly as casual as his master was. The Dark Soul Hall Elder eyed Xuan Yuan's shadow for a moment, shaking her head and letting out a sigh. Your 9 eyes shadow GU is an important GU, Xuan Yuan. More so than you realize. Xuan Yuan raised an eyebrow. What do you mean, Elder Hu? He asked. Elder Luo and Elder Hu glanced at each other, before the former leaned back in his chair, his expression becoming worrisome. Xuan Yuan's curious expression turned troubled, but Luo Yu just waved him off, dispelling those negative thoughts. It is nothing negative, Xuan Yuan. In fact, it is quite beneficial. It has to do with your position in the ancient soul sect, however. Xuan Yuan unconsciously leaned forward, letting Elder Luo continue. Elder Kong had reported your GU refinement to the Sky Soul Hall. It wasn't particularly anything of note, just that a talented junior had created a brand new GU, something that might interest a mortal song or a mortal gong, considering both of their paths. However, considering your age and your budding attainment in multiple paths, Elder Kong pushed your name forward in the Sky Soul Hall to become our newest abyssal child. Abyssal child? Xuan Yuan frowned, just the title alone carried negative connotations. Both Elder Luo and Elder Hu shook their heads, the latter describing the title. An abyssal child of the ancient soul sect is the title we give to our holy child. Similar to how the Spirit Affinity House possesses their generational fairy, and how the immortal Crane sect possesses their divine Crane child, our ancient soul sect has an abyssal child, named after the earth abyss which this sect was built upon. The abyssal child of the ancient soul sect is essentially a GU immortal seed. There are other benefits, but also responsibilities that they must uphold. When you become a rank 5 GU master, this will become much more apparent. When you reach the apex of immortal GU master, our rank 6 GU immortals will personally assist in your immortal ascension. I do not understand the process perfectly myself, however, there is obviously a certain level of danger involved during immortal ascension. Additionally, the rewards a GU master can obtain once their immortal ascension is complete differs depending on their performance. Even if you were to do badly, there is little chance in losing your life. Xuan Yuan. Xuan Yuan frowned, remembering another otherworldly demon who became the generational fairy of the Spirit Affinity House. Obtaining the recognition of Love GU, she did something that even Star Constellation failed to achieve. Remembering his position as an otherworldly demon, Xuan Yuan replied carefully. What would these benefits and responsibilities be exactly? Elder Hu nodded. After assuming the role of abyssal child, every member of the sect should obey your authority. You would be given access to the sect treasury, as well as the sect archives and sect registry. Only elders are exempt from this rule, and of course, are GU immortals. Additionally, at least one GU immortal will accompany you at all times outside of the sect. In terms of responsibilities, you will meet with representatives of our subsidiary sects every few years to discuss terms in regards to tithes and relationships. You will discuss demonic path GU masters and potential hunts to quell any unrest caused by them. You will manage mortal resource points, trying your best to increase our return on investment. Additionally, you will manage our relationships with the other 10 great sects, in terms of alliances and trade agreements. Xuan Yuan's expression worsened the more he listened to Elder Hu's words. That was more responsibility than what Xuan Yuan wanted right now. Access to the sect archives and treasury sounds nice, but the responsibilities are too much. I just want to focus on GU and my cultivation. Being perfectly honest, all that other stuff just seems boring when I could be preparing for immortal ascension or increasing my attainment. Elder Luo nodded slowly, knowing that Elder Hu was sending him a subtle glare. I told Elder Kong this, and he informed me that if you became the abyssal child, he would allow you to attempt to open one of the inheritances that the ancient soul sect possesses. The nature and uniqueness of this inheritance is the only reason why I am telling you this, despite Elder Hu warning me not to. Elder Hu couldn't hold it in any longer, her tone warning Elder Huo that he shouldn't continue. He is not the abyssal child yet, Luo Yu. There are other candidates beside him. He does not need to know. Elder Luo shook his head, not listening to Elder Hu. Xuan Yuan unconsciously gulped, feeling the light in the room darken, as Elder Hu's expression grew fiercer. He will only agree to become the abyssal child if I tell him. Otherwise, he would regret it in the long run. The inheritance is his inheritance. Hu Yin. There isn't a single GU master in the 5 regions who hasn't heard his name. Xuan Yuan raised an eyebrow. Despite the tension in the room, his curiosity got the better of him. Who is he asked. Elder Luo and Elder Hu shared one last glare against each other, before the former just sighed, rolling her eyes and shaking her head. Luo Yu nodded thankfully at her, before turning back to his only disciple. Chapter 28 Hidden Inheritances. Published by web novel. Limitless, Xuan Yuan whispered. It was as Elder Luo said, there wasn't a single GU master or GU immortal who hadn't heard the name of Limitless. There was only a single Venerable whose name consisted of a single word, the first demonic Venerable, and if the legends were true, the only Venerable who could equal Star Constellation in terms of cunning and intelligence. He was the founder of the Rule Path, and according to Lang Yalan Spirit, possessed GU immortal Dao marks as a GU master. He was in possession of Care immortal GU, which allowed him to resolve the agreements made of any path. He sought to use derivation GU to create a method to obtain eternal life. He used Care immortal GU to search for the Care secluded domain of heaven and earth. Eventually, Limitless sought to bring himself back to life, using the million-year foundation he had hidden within the depths of Crazed Demon Cave. He had almost succeeded too, withstanding raw chaos with nothing but his physical body. He had reached a realm beyond anything that Star Constellation, Giant Sun, or Feng Yuan had ever seen. The sheer number of Dao marks Limitless demonic Venerable had in his possession exceeded even Feng Yuan with the sovereign immortal aperture. Limitless was one of the most mysterious Venerables throughout history. While given the title of demonic Venerable, he was similar to Xuan Yuan, in that he sought truth and the answer to eternal life like Feng Yuan. Limitless demonic Venerable was also one of the few GU immortals who had comprehended heaven path. Xuan Yuan wasn't sure what his exact attainment in the path was, but it had to have been extraordinarily high given that derivation GU was exploring possibilities about it for more than a million years. Xuan Yuan stared at Elder Luo and Elder Hu, both of whom showed serious expressions. The latter nodded, but unconsciously glanced around the room, making sure that no one else was around them. While it is common knowledge throughout the GU immortals of the 10 great sects that each carry the inheritances of past powerhouses, only a few possess inheritances from past Venerables. Our ancient soul sect possesses the inheritance of Limitless demonic Venerable, while the Spirit Affinity House the inheritance of Thieving Heaven. And Combat Immortal sect holds an inheritance of Reckless Savage. Heavenly Lotus sect was founded by Genesis Lotus, so it is obvious that he left something behind for them. The other 6 of the 10 great sects do not have a venerable inheritance. Primordial Chi and Star Constellation left behind their own means, but all of them are in the hands of the Heavenly Court. Giant Sun in the hands of his own Longevity Heaven, while Spectral Soul left remnants of his legacy across the 5 regions. Reckless Savage, Thieving Heaven, Limitless, Paradise Earth and Red Lotus left behind minor inheritances all over the 5 regions. Even if they are mostly demonic Venerables, they still carry the title of Venerable, and are worthy of respect. Their inheritances, no matter how big or how small, are treated with the utmost caution, and are only open to those worthy enough to inherit them. Xuan Yuan raised an eyebrow. Quote, No one has claimed the inheritance of Limitless demonic Venerable within the ancient soul sect? Not even partially? Elder Luo shook his head. GU immortals are not permitted within the inheritance. All those that have tried have died, their minds and bodies corroded by whatever power lie inside. And of the GU masters that have tried, only a handful have returned, boasting mortal rule path GU, or an increased attainment in the rule path. No one has claimed the complete inheritance. The otherworldly demon nodded slightly, still slightly in awe of the sudden reveal. The ancient soul sect and the combat immortal sect both carry inheritances of past Venerables. I already knew that Spirit Affinity House and the Heavenly Lotus sect had the inheritances of Thieving Heaven and Genesis Lotus, but still, no wonder the foundations of the 10 great sects are so immense. Even without their relationship with Heavenly Court, I neglected to think about possible inheritances the sect might have obtained. Not to mention, one that has yet to be fully obtained. If those former abyssal children who entered Limitless inheritance failed to obtain the core of the inheritance, but still obtained rule path GU and an increase to the attainment, then what would completing the inheritance give someone? If Xuan Yuan had to sit through boring meetings and trade agreements if he had the chance to obtain Limitless inheritance, he wouldn't even hesitate, agreeing to anything the other party said. Despite all this, however, Xuan Yuan frowned for a moment, wondering why such a development occurred during the time he was unconscious. Elder Kong had put his name forward in the Sky Soul Hall to become an abyssal child, despite the fact that he was still only a rank 2 GU master. Looking at his master, Xuan Yuan couldn't help but ask. Quote, Why does Elder Kong want me to be the abyssal child? You said before that there are other candidates. I'm guessing that all of their cultivation must be much higher than my own, and the attainment in their paths significantly more developed in comparison to myself. What makes me different? Elder Luo and Elder Hu shared another look, but this time the latter wasn't having it. Elder Hu shook her head at Xuanyuan, her expression serious and her tone unyielding. It surprised Xuanyuan, seeing how unbending Elder Hu was in comparison to how she normally acted. Elder Kong is acting on information given to him by GU Immortals. Immortal Wu, the sect Wisdom Path GU Immortal, is always trying to deduce the future of the ancient soul sect. Her information is correlated by other Wisdom Path GU Immortals, and then given to the rest of the Sky Soul Hall in order to prepare for future events. Immortal Wu informed us of her predictions, but made us promise not to say anything to anyone, even the other elders. I understand that you might be curious, Xuanyuan, but reading fate and predicting the future is an extraordinarily difficult achievement. Being aware of the future can result in ripples occurring that should never have happened. If you know the future, then there are chances that things can change, and events that should happen may never end up happening. Is this understood, Xuanyuan? Xuanyuan nodded slowly, pretending to comprehend the things that Elder Hu had told him. As an otherworldly demon, Xuanyuan was already aware of the existence of Fate GU, Spring Autumn Cicada, and how time travel can mess with the predictions of Wisdom Path GU Immortals. Considering why Xuanyuan couldn't be told what this prediction was, he came to several different conclusions. Fate has been changed due to the presence of otherworldly demons. My existence has changed the course of history. Even if Fate GU planned for the events that I am familiar with to happen, it must have changed the fates of millions in order to account for my presence. I wonder how it will affect Fang Yuan and the Heavenly Court. Xuanyuan was unaware of the existence of the prophecy relating to the Venerables that were to exist after Great Dream Immortal Venerable. While it wasn't a prophecy made in relation to the Heavenly Court, there existed factions within the 5 regions whom believed its existence. The existence of these additional Venerables, ones that were not mentioned in Xuanyuan's previous life, was something he could never take into account. His knowledge of the future depended on Fang Yuan's experiences and actions, and the great era where Spectral Soul managed to revive using the Sovereign Immortal Fetus GU was hardly even mentioned by Fang Yuan. The existence of multiple Venerables in the same era meant that fate had determined a course of action for the great era. It was completely possible that even without Xuanyuan, future Venerables such as Divine Rain, Archfiend and Cold Annihilation would still be born, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years down the line. In both prophecies, Great Dream was still born, so their destiny hadn't yet been changed. So long as they could give birth to Great Dream Immortal Venerable first, it didn't matter if other Venerables existed. Great Dream was prophesied to become the greatest Venerable in history, creating the foundation for the Dream Path, an achievement never before seen throughout history. Luo Yu and Hu Yin shared another glance, the female rank 5 GU master giving her compatriot a stern glare. Neither were normally allowed to be aware of prophecies regarding future Venerables. Both were aware of the prophecy created by Immortal Yi Yan, titled Prophecy of the 3 Venerables. However, most of it had already been validated, Spectral Soul and Paradise Earth, both having long since passed. The existence of this new prophecy was certainly interesting in the eyes of the 10 great sects. However, for whatever reason, it had gained traction in 5 regions, each superforce trying to nurture GU immortal seeds that fit the description of each Venerable. And Elder Kong had gambled on Xuanyuan. The look in Elder Luo's eyes were gentle, but also worried. Xuanyuan wasn't even 16 yet, and he had already created waves in the sect that even he couldn't ride through safely. First was his comprehension, then his disagreement with Huo Jin, then his GU refinement, and now Xuanyuan was potentially this generation's abyssal child, and considered by Elder Kong as a possible future immortal Venerable. The description that Elder Kong had given him unnerved Luo Yu somewhat. Great Dream, blessed by fate, thou shalt rule over the Heavenly Court. Guided by love, thou shalt become the mother of life and death. Divine Rain, boundless water stretching beyond the 9 heavens, flourishing yellow apricots shall blossom throughout the 5 regions. Archfiend, thou shalt carry the weight of 9 suns, pulling them towards moon in thy heart. Inheritor of 2 Venerables. Cold Annihilation, the descent of a transcient eternity, freezing the 9 seas and swallowing 9 million souls. White Shadow, comprehending heaven and earth, thou shalt proclaim all things in the universe as shadows. It didn't have any physical descriptions, nor did it have anything about his personality or origins like the other possible Venerables. Only that White Shadow sought to comprehend the heavens and the earth, deriving all things in the universe as shadows. As much as he wanted to deny it, Luo Yu couldn't help but agree with Elder Kong's assessment of Xuanyuan. There were legends about Red Lotus and Star Constellation, about how both were destined from birth to become Venerables. Xuanyuan lived in the mortal world, but his talent and comprehension are only exceeded by the 10 extreme physiques. Nothing is guaranteed in this world, but could he really be destined to become a Venerable? Elder Luo was troubled, but just let out a sigh before standing up and placing a hand on Xuanyuan's shoulder. If you desire limitless inheritance, you must become the abyssal child, little Yuan. If you do not want either, then that is fine too. You walk your own path, blazing a trail that leads you through the unknown. Even without the inheritance, you will still achieve greatness. Get some rest for the time being, you will need it for the tournament. Elder Luo gestured for Elder Hu to follow him, both of the rank 5 GU masters leaving the otherworldly demon alone in his room, nothing but his shadow to accompany him. Xuanyuan glanced at his shadow, watching as the swirling splotches of eyes coiled and twisted like a starry night. He didn't fully understand the meaning behind Elder Luo's words, but still resolved himself to obtain everything that he could firmly grasp in his hands. The ancient soul sect possesses the inheritance of limitless demonic venerable. If I desire to obtain primordial domain and derivation immortal GU in the future, then possessing his inheritance will boost my chances of reaching it in the future. As much as I'd like to obtain the inheritance of reckless savage and thieving heaven, I'll take what I can get for the time being. The rule path, alongside the wisdom path, can create true meaning. It can be used to manipulate the natural rules and regulations of the world, enforcing a truth within a certain area. Even if I don't obtain the complete inheritance, so long as I gain an increase to my attainment, I will reap greater benefits in the long run. I had never thought of using the rule path, despite limitless demonic venerable dying after failing to achieve eternal life, given the strange and obscure methods behind it. It is similar to the wisdom path in some ways, albeit my knowledge on the wisdom path is significantly more extensive in comparison. It can enforce rules, such as big, short, 1, or 2, on targets or in a certain area, and regulations like slow, curve, false, and weak on individuals as well. It is similar to buffs and debuffs, although these are only effects, not the actual power behind the path. A glint appeared within Xuanyuan's eyes. So long as I can obtain limitless inheritance, I will do whatever it takes to become the ancient soul sect's abyssal child. Firstly, starting with this tournament. Chapter 29 Meeting with a GU Immortal. Published by web novel. Earth Soul City was in quite the hubbub towards the end of the year, mortal celebrations and festivities lining the streets of the enormous city. Crimson ribbons and blood-colored banners lined the streets, painting the town in bright shades of red. Fireworks lit up the skies at night, the glow and radiance of the stars were outshined by the multicolored beams of light which pierced through the black sky. Joyous cries and screams of jubilation filled Earth Soul City, and Xuanyuan watched as mortals crowded together, families and loved ones taking part in the celebration. I'm another year older, he muttered. Xuanyuan turned 16 on the last day of the year. 16 years had passed since he was reborn in the GU world, and almost a year since he had been recruited by the ancient soul sect and become a GU master. Xuanyuan felt at peace, watching the festivities from afar. He didn't hate the sounds of fireworks, and the screams of happiness and joy were something that was the same, regardless of the world he was born into. Xuanyuan just liked the scenery, and the vast shadows that were cast by the fireworks were enough to attract his attention. Every few minutes, light bloomed in the skies above Earth Soul City, banishing the darkness away, giving rise to countless shadows. They only lasted a few seconds, but they too were relishing in the New Year celebrations, feeling the positive emotions of their reflection. Xuanyuan didn't have Grandmaster attainment in the shadow path, but he could feel closer to shadows through the 9-eye shadow GU, letting him feel the presence of shadows within a certain radius. The 15, now 16-year-old just smiled softly, watching again and again as fireworks lit up the night sky. He almost didn't notice the young man standing beside him. If it wasn't for the presence of his shadow, he never would have noticed him standing in the corner of his eye. Xuanyuan's vision had increased beyond that of a regular mortal's, so he unconsciously raised an eyebrow, knowing that this person was a GU master. The young man in question didn't seem a day older than 20. His features were soft, almost childlike, but Xuanyuan could see from the scars on his hands that his true age was much higher than his appearance let on. Xuanyuan gazed at the young man, causing him to smile and meet his gaze head-on. Xuanyuan felt the world turn darker for a moment, causing Xuanyuan to frown, his attention still placed on the young man. Quote, If you are with Huojin, your presence is not wanted here. Leave whatever enmity you have with me in this year, and do not carry it into the next. The young man just smiled, shrugging his shoulders, letting the world return to its normal colors. The sound of fireworks echoing in the background surprised Xuanyuan, not noticing himself being cut off from the rest of the world. Even if it was just for a couple seconds, something took over my senses. It made everything more dull. I have that effect, unfortunately, a side effect of my vital GU. The young-looking man spoke, his voice clear and melodious, but with a strange tone that Xuanyuan had never heard before. Despite being dressed in all white, something twisted and squirmed in the alleyway behind him, a place where light was unable to reach. It didn't feel familiar to Xuanyuan, but also didn't feel inherently malicious or positive. Something in the darkness of the alleyway resembled something else in Xuanyuan's mind. He was unconsciously making connections to things that, while similar to each other, were fundamentally not the same. Xuanyuan paused for a moment, before a look of realization appeared on his face. Dark Path? You're a Dark Path GU master? He asked. The young man showed a thoughtful expression for a moment before smiling, not affirming or denying the allegation. You noticed it quicker than I thought. The last time I tried that, the poor sap didn't even notice until the darkness encroached on his lower body. If I were a demonic path GU master, he would have been dead a long time ago. So you're a member of the ancient soul sect then? Xuanyuan countered. The young man nodded again, waving his hand and letting the darkness in the alleyway behind him return to its normal state. As time were reversing itself, splotches of ink traveled from the alleyway through the air, returning back to the man's sleeve, hiding in the darkness away from the light. Xuanyuan wondered what type of dark path GU possessed such abilities, but noticed the young man walk towards him, his hands behind his back, and a playful smile pulling at the corner of his lips. When I heard that old Kong put forward a name for this generation's abyssal child, I was quite surprised it was a name that he had mentioned to me a few weeks ago. Abyssal children are those the sect expect to become GU immortals, meaning that their strategic value exceed that of 90% of their entire generation. A single GU immortal is worth dozens of rank 5 GU masters, one with even the lowest grade blessed land. After finding out that old Kong put forward the name of a boy, who hadn't even turned 16 yet, I wasn't too happy with him. Abyssal children should embody the morality of the ancient soul sect, and possess a talent and comprehension exceeding that of everyone around them. The young man paused less than a meter away from Xuanyuan, his eyes roaming all over his body, nodding as he met Xuanyuan's gaze. So imagine my surprise, when Young Song comes to me with a new GU recipe, supposedly created by this abyssal child candidate. A transformation type GU, although one that adds a quality to the shadow, rather than outright transform it. Simple, yet complex in its thinking. You are not a transformation path GU master, so why should you transform yourself needlessly? It has 3 traits, reminiscent of Ice Muscles GU, Dragon Strength GU and Shadow Eyes GU. It is a permanent enhancement, but also possessing an active quality whenever primeval essence flows into it. Similarly, it can enhance the effectiveness of Shadow Path GU by a minute amount, although perhaps a rank 4, or even a rank 5 refinement would bring a significant boost to effectiveness. Your thought process was quite interesting as well. So many materials for a single rank 1 GU. You understand the human isolation style quite well, as well as profundities of the refinement path. This GU is extremely effective at what it does, and still leaves room for other visual enhancement type GU. A truly wondrous creation. Tell me, abyssal child candidate, what did you have in mind when you created your 9 eyes shadow GU? The color drained from Xuanyuan's face. Familiar names, and a presence that exceeded anything he had ever felt before suddenly appeared right in front of him. His breath hitched for a moment, before Xuanyuan whispered. Quote, GU immortal. The young man nodded, not even so much as blinking as he leaned closer towards Xuanyuan. That's right, I, Chu Tianwu, have spent the better part of a millennia researching the dark path, understanding its profundities and its underlying truths. I researched its relationship to the shadow path, seeing as though darkness and light birth shadows, but never quite understood how shadows were the reflection of all living beings. Strange really, I don't know why I didn't think of it before. Xuanyuan gulped. The shadow path is easier to work with than the dark path. Shadows are a reflection of all living beings. Darkness is the primordial womb which birthed creation. It is a world without color. It is a world without change. It is a world without the body. Trying to change the physical with the dark path is counterintuitive. It is, and always has been, a spiritual transformation. This was Xuanyuan's understanding of the dark path, after completely digesting Long Zai's research, as well as his own comprehensions, based on its relationship with the shadow path and the light path. It was rough, but partly true. Darkness had no physical form, much like shadows. Darkness did not change on its own, remaining not stagnant, but motionless. Similar to a lake on a windless night, completely calm, not even so much as a ripple disturbing it. The GU immortal raised an eyebrow, leaning back and blinking for a moment before letting out a laugh, slapping Xuanyuan on the shoulder. Darkness is the primordial womb which birthed creation. Ha, I like that kid, I'm gonna steal it. The sudden tension in the air completely vanished, and the young-looking GU immortal Zhu grinned, letting out a sigh and shaking his head. Wow, when Elder Kong said you were smart, he was really underestimating you. I can't believe you came up with that conclusion after a single year of being a GU master. If this is your attainment in the dark path, then I can't even imagine how much you've developed your own shadow path. Xuanyuan shook his head profusely. I'm not even a master in the shadow path yet. My attainment in the dark path isn't quite a quasi-master, but in a couple years I hope to have reached that. In the light path as well, that is. Xuanyuan just heard the dark path GU immortal laugh even harder, watching as he ran his scarred hand through his hair. Xuanyuan could see, now that he was much closer, that a faint scar ran through the side of his head. Mostly obscured by hair, it was faint, but could be seen after he adjusted his fringe. The GU immortal noticed Xuanyuan's gaze before pausing, his expression becoming slightly more serious. I understand that you intend on going through with limitless inheritance if you become the abyssal child? Is that correct, Xuanyuan? The otherworldly demon nodded. Yes, even if I am not fated for it, if I can increase my attainment in the rule path, I can use it to bridge my shadow path up to the same realm. Additionally, I hope to create rule path GU, or shadow path GU, which can mimic the other path. I do not know much about rule path GU, but I know how rules GU and regulations GU work. The GU immortal paused, before asking Xuanyuan a question. You would only use the rule path to push your current path forward? Wouldn't switching to the rule path be quicker for your cultivation? Xuanyuan shook his head in reply. I am not sure if it is destiny, or love, but only the shadow path holds appeal to me. Other paths are only useful to augment my shadow path. That isn't to say that other paths are worthless to me. Dark and light paths are examples of this, but in my heart, only shadows have a place. Xuanyuan also wanted to keep his options open in the future, seeing if he could comprehend heaven path or human path, but didn't say that in front of a GU immortal. Having an understanding, or even knowing that it existed as a GU master was just asking for trouble. The unnamed GU immortal just smiled, not saying anything. I was like that once, he thought. Before he became a GU immortal in the dark path, he dreamt of using the dark path to copy the qualities of all other paths in the world. The dark path was colorless and corruptive, yet also cold and nurturing. It took him a long time before he realized that only darkness existed before creation existed. That darkness was an eternal presence in the world. People feared what they could not see. People feared what they could not understand. They could not see darkness, and how could they understand that which they could not see? Everyone started somewhere, even GU immortals. This particular GU immortal just let out a loud sigh, feeling some weight within his shoulders disappear along with his worries and troubles. If I had even half, or a quarter, or a fifth of your comprehension, Xuanyuan, I dare say I wouldn't have stopped at rank 7, gaining the courage to develop my blessed land into a grotto heaven. I am envious, and at the same time thankful for your existence. Xuanyuan didn't say anything, letting the man continue. With you around, the future of my ancient soul sect is guaranteed for the next millennia, possibly several millennia. If there is someone who can obtain the complete inheritance of Limitless, it is you. I have seen abyssal child after abyssal child try and fail, but you are the most suitable candidate I have ever seen for the trial, without question. When you become a rank 5 GU master, you'll be given everything the sect has to offer in preparation for your immortal ascension. We will want you to be as perfect as you possibly can be, Xuanyuan, but it will rely on your own hard work, not just the efforts of others. Is that understood, Xuanyuan? The rank 2 middle stage GU master nodded, but frowned for a moment, his desires getting the better of him. The GU immortal noticed this, and couldn't help but ask what was wrong. Is there something the matter, Xuanyuan? I understand that the pressure is immense, but the accumulation of your own experiences and attainment can only be done by you and you alone. If others interfere then. Xuanyuan shook his head, taking in a deep breath and gazing at the GU immortal in front of him. Does the sect have any method of refining a second aperture GU? The dark path GU immortal seemed stunned and blinked a couple times, before letting out a sigh, shaking his head. I wish I could say yes, Xuanyuan. Our ancient soul sect has several immortal GU recipes in its possession, and multiple immortal GU, however, second aperture GU is not one of them. Even if we did have one, I have no doubt that it would have been used a long time ago, by a previous abyssal child, or the descendant of a greedy elder. Xuanyuan shrugged his shoulders, shaking his head. His tone was formal, but Xuanyuan knew that this GU immortal wouldn't ask for a bow or kowtow. My apologies, Supreme Elder, I did not mean to be so presumptuous. The ancient soul sect Supreme Elder just nodded, giving Xuanyuan one last nod. Good luck tomorrow, Xuanyuan. I hope we meet again soon. The moment those words left his lips, the figure of the GU immortal vanished into splotches of dark ink. Nothing, but the faint cries of mortals and the booming fireworks could be heard in the alleyway that Xuanyuan was in. Shrugging his shoulders, Xuanyuan walked back towards False Soul Mountain, letting out a small sigh. It was worth a try, I guess. Chapter 30 It's a Promise. Published by web novel. The first day of the new year in the ancient soul sect was always, without fail, the start of the new disciple tournament. The excitement from the festival on the previous day carried over into the morning of this one, and over 100 new disciples all gathered together in the wood soul hall, murmuring and chatting about their progress and cultivation. Did you end up reaching rank 2 before the beginning of the tournament? I'm not even close, man. I only became a peak rank 1 GU master about a month ago. How I am going to reach rank 2 in the span of only 30 days? If I had a liquor GU, or even just a single green copper relic GU, I definitely would have reached rank 2 before the tournament. Did you hear about Fang Kai and Song Pei? Both of them are apparently rank 2 GU masters already, and have been for quite a while. Of course they both are. They are the descendants of elders within the sect. Everything they could ever need for their cultivation was given to them the moment they were born. I'm sure, even if they awakened a D grade or C grade talent, they would have found a way for them to enter the ancient soul sect. I also heard that Tai Yang and Tai Yin are both rank 2 as well. Their father is Elder Tai, the elder in charge of Water Soul Hall. Their father could literally give them all the primeval essence stones they could ever need and still have enough left over for the rest of us. Don't even get me started on Xuanyuan. I heard that someone reported him to the elders and they turned a blind eye to his actions. Didn't he assault several female disciples? Isn't the ancient soul sect a righteous sect? Even if he is the disciple of Elder Luo, shouldn't there be a standard upheld within the sect? I also heard he is a rank 2 GU master. Rumors and gossip were shared all throughout the morning. Xuanyuan didn't receive his breakfast in the Wood Soul Hall, instead having a small meal in Elder Luo's residence, before heading towards the Strength Soul Hall. The Strength Soul Hall was where the sect held their combat classes and martial arts classes, in addition to housing the arenas used for tournaments within the sect. While older disciples weren't that interested in the tournament, they were interested in those GU masters who managed to reach rank 2 within the span of a year. These were not just talented juniors to watch out for, but also competition for the regular sect tournament held once every 3 years. Not to mention, the winner of the tournament became an intersect disciple, granting them more privileges and a higher status in the sect. That was perhaps the most valuable thing the tournament gave out. Xuanyuan watched from the stands as dozens upon dozens of rank 1 GU masters filtered into the Strength Soul Hall, barely filling up a portion of the stands. A few groups of senior brothers and senior sisters sat in the stands as well, watching the new group of disciples intently, muttering and chattering amongst themselves. Xuanyuan saw Longxi and Yu Zhong'er in the crowd, and waved at them, causing the former to wave back with a smile on her face. Yu Zhong'er just gave him a small nod and an almost imperceptible smile. She, alongside Longxi, had long since become peak rank 2 GU masters, waiting for the moment they both reached rank 3 before giving Xuanyuan his rank 2 4 fragrances liquor worm. Both were grade talents, so it was only a matter of time before their cultivation reached that point. Moving his attention away from Longxi and Yu Zhong'er, Xuanyuan noticed Little Gong and Lu Guo in the crowd. These were the only 2 disciples from his own batch that he knew personally, while the only others were those he knew by name were those descendants of elders whose cultivation exceeded his own. Fang Kai was the descendant of Elder Fang from the Wood Soul Hall, a rank 5 Wood Path GU master. Song Pei was the descendant of Elder Song from the Dragon Soul Hall, a rank 5 Enslavement Path GU master. And Tai Yin and Tai Yang were both twins, descendants of Elder Tai from the Water Soul Hall, a rank 5 Water Path GU master. Other than Song Pei, who was seen around the sect with a large crocodile-like beast, indicating his enslavement path background, Xuanyuan didn't know what any of the other paths the elder descendants chose. It would make Xuanyuan's life significantly easier if they all followed the same path as their parents or grandparents, but Xuanyuan knew better than to think such a thing. Glancing at the elders' box towards the entrance to the arena, Xuanyuan could immediately see more than a dozen different elders present. Elder Fang, Elder Song and Elder Tai were all present, as were Elder Luo and Elder Hu. Elder Guo was present. Elder Kong and Elder Li from Burning Soul Hall were all present as well. And, for the first time since joining the sect, Xuanyuan met the leader of the ancient soul sect. A middle-aged man with black glossy hair, pale skin and a demeanor that seemed almost otherworldly. His presence stood out in comparison to the other elders, and the faint scar through his eyebrow made him seem slightly wild, but significantly more masculine. He was tall, and his robes were baggy, but Xuanyuan could tell that his figure was lithe and refined. Years of cultivation, martial arts and research had given most GU masters a thin physique, obviously with some exceptions, but most were above average in terms of appearance. The sect leader raised his hand, and immediately, all sound within the arena ceased, prevented from escaping through some unknown method. Xuanyuan felt a wave of power wash over him, lifting his head unconsciously, blinking as he tried to feel what type of GU had affected him. Was that a Sound Path GU? Is the sect leader of the ancient soul sect a Sound Path GU immortal? I don't recall Elder Kong or Master mentioning if the sect possessed a Sound Path GU immortal. Elder Kong had mentioned numerous GU immortals that belonged to the ancient soul sect, more than a dozen, each belonging to different paths. The ancient soul sect valued diversity within its ranks, so that its GU immortals could leave behind different legacies and inheritances for their disciples. Additionally, it made it easier to leave behind blessed lands and grotto heavens, considering that it was just passed down to the next GU immortal of that path. While the foundations for some paths, like Sword Path and Lightning Path, were not that common in the ancient soul sect, their Earth Path GU immortal and their Soul Path GU immortal were, from Xuanyuan's understanding, developed beyond their rank. They annexed the blessed land of the previous Earth Path and Soul Path GU immortals, elevating their foundations to the level of an already established GU immortal. There was a problem with this, that rank 8 GU immortals required a great grandmaster level attainment in a path in order to be annexed, but was solved with the existence of Ancient Soul Public Grotto Heaven. Ancient Soul Public Grotto Heaven was the public blessed land belonging to the Ancient Soul Sect. Those rank 8 GU immortals belonging to the Ancient Soul Sect allowed their immortal apertures to fuse with the public blessed land, and was primarily used to house the Dragon Soul Hall, the Soul Hall which focused on taming and enslaving beasts for battle. The size of Ancient Soul Public Grotto Heaven was enormous, even by Xuanyuan standards. It had several tens of thousands of years worth of foundations, and even if the Dao marks within weren't compatible, the size was baffling to Xuanyuan. To put it in perspective, Fang Yuan's immortal sovereign aperture was more than 33 million square kilometers after he became rank 9. In comparison, the size of Africa is roughly 30 million square kilometers. The size of Ancient Soul Public Grotto Heaven was more than 30 million square kilometers. It possessed seas, mountains, rivers, forests, jungles, deserts, tundras and a single ocean more than 1,000 kilometers deep. All manner of GU, beasts and GU materials grew within the public blessed land. This was a foundation which stretched back more than 300,000 years. One of the oldest sects in the central continent. Xuanyuan didn't have any evidence, but he was sure that the public blessed land contained several desolate beasts. Xuanyuan stopped his train of thought, focusing on the sect leader. The handsome man didn't smile, but his tone and demeanor wasn't distant or overtly commanding. I'll keep this brief. You have all been in our Ancient Soul Sect for almost an entire year now. Despite your youth and inexperience, you have all started to walk your paths, developing into a new generation of GU masters. This tournament is designed to highlight all of your understandings and comprehensions, to show off your cultivation, to emphasize the strength of your mind and the power of your GU. You are all members of the Ancient Soul Sect. That fact will never change. You might have different mothers and fathers, but you are all children of the sect. Brothers and sisters whom walk hand in hand towards immortality. Do your very best today. Your efforts and hard work will be noted, and those whom perform well will be exceptionally praised. I expect great things from all of you. The sect leader showed a small smile, his eyes glancing over the batch of new disciples, lingering on a couple before landing on Xuanyuan. It lingered on him for no longer than a second, before the sect leader waved his hand, gesturing for Elder Chong from the Strength Soul Hall to continue. The Strength Path rank 5 GU master nodded, standing even taller than Xuanyuan. His broad shoulders and massive frame made him appear more like a giant than a human. He must have been at least 8 feet tall and arms thicker than Xuanyuan's waist. He was bald, and his expression fierce, yet an unmistakable smile marred his lips. There will be 8 concurrent battles at any given point in time. You will fight your opponent for the round until a clear winner and loser has been determined. You are not permitted to leave the limits of the arena until you have withdrawn from the tournament. You will fight, again and again until you are no longer able to. Your names will be drawn randomly from a pool, which is how we will decide your opponents. Cheating must be proven directly after the accusation. If you are caught cheating, you will be disqualified and reprimanded to the Burning Soul Hall. Is that understood? Every GU master in the crowd nodded, albeit a few unwillingly. Xuanyuan felt a few glances sent his way, but ignored them and just watched Elder Chong. More than a few in the crowd wanted the Strength Path GU master to point out the few in the crowd whom possessed rank 2 cultivations. Elder Chong glanced at those individuals before addressing the disciples. With regards to those GU masters whom have attained rank 2 before the tournament, the sect congratulates you and informs that they will be competing as well. Are you serious? A few GU masters in the crowd stood up, frowning deeply. One in particular practically snarled before waving his hands towards Xuanyuan, Songpei and the others. The focus of the entire arena was on this single young man. This cannot be fair. Wanting to fight a rank 2 GU master as a rank 1? It's impossible. They should be excluded from the tournament, and you should let just the rank 1 GU masters participate. The young man received a couple cheers and a few nods, while Elder Chong just stood there, arms crossed and expression blasé. He watched as the young man specifically pointed out Xuanyuan, causing him to frown as he continued. There are descendants of elders and the disciples of elders whom have received more GU and primeval essence stones than the rest of us. How can this be considered fair? You expect us to fight against them, all the while they are benefiting from resources that we cannot possibly obtain. This one here has assaulted multiple women within the sect, and yet he still walks around like nothing has happened. He is rewarded for breaking the rules. Is this how the righteous path nurtures their geniuses? Xuanyuan's expression remained mellow, but Elder Luo unconsciously tightened the grip on his chair. Elder Hu, Elder Guo and Elder Kong glanced at the Space Path GU master, rolling their eyes at Luo Yu's reaction. This will end well, they all thought. Elder Chong didn't even so much as flinch, his eyes moving to Xuanyuan for a moment, before moving back to this young man. That is a serious accusation, young man. Do you have evidence to support these claims? Elder Chong asked calmly. The boy was a little bit taken back at the cool demeanor Elder Chong used, but just glanced at his fellow disciples gesturing for them to speak up. A number of disciples looked at each other, particularly toward their fellow female disciples, but all of them just shook their heads, glancing at the others around them instead. Even after a couple minutes, no one stood up, leaving the boy nervous and biting his lip. They must just be too scared to voice themselves, he claimed. He is the personal disciple of an elder. It is possible that Elder Luo asked them to remain quiet. The boy flinched as a loud bang echoed right beside him. Several other disciples screamed as a palm-sized blade of shadow flew through the air, creating a deep, clean cut in the space between his legs. The shadow blade was perfectly angled so that it missed several other disciples. Rotating at it flew through the air. The sudden attack caused several elders to stand up in their seats, but a single hand raised by the sect leader caused them to stop, waiting for Xuanyuan's response. An intrigued smile marred the lips of the sect leader. He watched as Xuanyuan walked up the steps towards the young man, his taller frame hunching forward slightly, almost a complete head taller than the other boy. Standing face to face with him, his expression was cold and emotionless. The other boy could see his own reflection in Xuanyuan's eyes, and he unconsciously gulped, a flicker of courage appearing in his heart. Why you just attacked a fellow disciple? You should be punished for. Xuanyuan put his hand on the boy's shoulder, silencing him as he stared directly into his eyes. I don't care what you say about me. I don't care if you resent me or envy me for my talent and luck. You can curse me, disparage me, slander me, even plot against me. I don't care. Xuanyuan moved his hand from the boy's shoulder to his neck, making him stiffen unconsciously. His touch was light, gentle, akin to a lover's touch, but the thumb over his jugular was anything but pleasant. The otherworldly demon just showed a happy smile, one that would have made someone's heart flutter in any other circumstance. But if you so much as even slander my master, accuse him of blackmail or some other heinous act, I will break every bone in your body. This isn't a threat, it's a promise. Beautiful black eyes glanced all around the arena, reflecting the figures of countless new disciples. And that promise extends to all of you as well. Chapter 31 The Tournament Begins. Published by Web Novel. And that promise extends to all of you as well. Xuanyuan's eyes swept over the entirety of the new disciple cohort. A wave of shivers crept up the spines of these young men and women. Each could see their own reflection in his eyes. Xuanyuan's hand still placed on the jugular of the boy. Even a blind person could see that Xuanyuan's smile didn't reach his eyes. There was a coldness behind them, which didn't belong to a regular 15-year-old. Song Pei, Feng Kai, Tai Yin and Tai Yan all narrowed their eyes at Xuanyuan, alongside a couple of initial stage rank 2 GU masters. Most of them had grade talents, but only a handful had primeval essence Cs above 90%. They didn't think themselves necessarily less talented than Xuanyuan, albeit, they knew that as the disciple of Elder Luo, he had access to resources that they didn't. And while none of them felt threatened by Xuanyuan's words, they all realized something about him. Xuanyuan holds Elder Luo in extremely high regard. He only did something after that boy mentioned his name, and from the looks of things, he isn't above disregarding the rules in order to send a message. Most of them had a rough idea how talented Xuanyuan was. Each of them either had a familial relationship with an elder, or some sort of background in the world of GU masters. From their understanding, Xuan Yuan was the type of talent that could afford to walk more than a single path and produce the same results as person who dedicated themselves to one. While information about his own original GU recipe hadn't become public information yet, eventually it would come to light. Xuan Yuan, for violating the rules of the sect and attacking a fellow disciple, you will be sent to the Burning Soul Hall for punishment. In defense of Elder Luo's honor, I will allow you to carry out your punishment after the tournament. The sect leader spoke those words softly, but they echoed throughout the entire Strength Soul Hall. Xuan Yuan immediately released the boy from his grasp and knelt down on one knee, dropping his head. I apologize for the unsightly display, sect leader. It will not happen again. Xuan Yuan's words were loud and clear, but everyone knew they were empty promises. He had just publicly threatened every single disciple in the arena, so there was no escaping punishment from that. The otherworldly demon didn't even so much as glance at the boy before returning back to his seat. The others around him giving him a wide berth as he sat back down. Xuan Yuan glanced at the other elders, trying to gauge their reaction. Elder Hu and Elder Guo seemed unbothered, the latter probably wanting to return back to his GU refinement. Elder Chong and Elder Tai from the Water Soul Hall didn't seem upset by his outburst either. Elder Feng from Wood Soul Hall, Elder Song from Dragon Soul Hall, and Elder Li from Burning Soul Hall didn't seem that pleased. Two were the grandparents of new disciples, while Elder Li, a firm fanatic of the righteous path, wasn't too happy with Xuan Yuan for threatening his fellow disciples. Elder Kong just smiled at Xuan Yuan, glancing off to the side of the arena, causing him to frown before moving his gaze towards where Elder Kong's eyes lingered. Sitting in the crowd, a young-looking man with scars on his hands just winked at Xuan Yuan, two beautiful-looking women sitting either side of him. One with hair as black as night, the other, bright blonde hair which shone like fields of gold. Despite their appearance, no one else in the audience was looking at them. With how beautiful the two women looked, Xuan Yuan was sure that they would be attracting more attention than the sect leader. It only took Xuan Yuan a moment to realize who, or what the two women were. GU Immortals. All three of them are GU Immortals. They're just sitting there, hidden in the crowd. Considering that Elder Kong told me only a couple of GU Immortals were interested in me, those two either side of him are either Immortal Song, Immortal D, or Immortal Lan. Is this what they meant by test? Xuan Yuan suppressed his desire to keep his eyes on the three, moving back towards Elder Chong as he shrugged his shoulders, grabbing a glass sphere from a nearby GU master. The sect leader has spoken. There was no evidence regarding Xuan Yuan's accused crimes, so the matter will be dismissed. The tournament will continue. Elder Chong just smiled, reaching into the glass sphere and drawing out two names. Platform 1, Chu Yufeng versus Lin Yuan. Two rank 1 GU masters stood up, glancing at each other before heading down towards the arena floor. 8 elevated platforms were clearly defined in the normally circular arena, a rank 3 GU master placed beside each platform. It wasn't until the seventh set of names did Xuan Yuan perk up a little. Platform 7, Song Pei versus Bing Ti. The mention of an elder descendant caused a few in the crowd to perk up, all the attention in the crowd focused around platform 7. Song Pei stood on the platform, the large, 5-meter crocodile faithfully by his side. The opposing GU master, Bing Ti, seemed slightly wary of the beast, but just nodded slowly, muttering something to himself. Xuan Yuan couldn't read lips, but he could tell that he was unconscious analyzing his opponent. Song Pei was an enslavement path GU master, meaning that most of his GU were probably related to enslaving beasts, and potentially even enhancing the strength of his beasts. Enslavement path GU masters were usually weak on their own, their strength laying in their mental strength, as well as their enslaved beasts. Song Pei was a rank 2 GU master, meaning that theoretically, he should be able to control at least a dozen beasts of a lower rank at once. But still, he brought out only a single crocodile beast. Bing Ti realized this and unconsciously entered a defensive stance. Song Pei remained motionless, his crocodile beast releasing dull snarls at Bing Ti. The referee glanced at the two GU masters nodding a moment before raising his arm and swinging it low. Begin. Immediately, Bing Ti leapt back, swinging his arm wide and releasing a finger-thick beam of sword chi. Xuan Yuan leaned forward after seeing the unfamiliar path, watching as the finger-width, hand-sized beam of sword chi was swiftly launched at Song Pei. The enslavement path GU master raised an eyebrow, but retreated back several paces, flicking his fingers, gesturing for the crocodile to approach Bing Ti. The sword chi harmlessly passed by him, smiling provocatively at his opponent. Regular GU masters couldn't have saved up enough primeval essence stones to obtain more than a few GU over the course of a single year. Between using those primeval essence stones to attend classes and cultivate, the vast majority were forced to go on missions or jobs in order to obtain more wealth. Xuan Yuan would have done this if it wasn't for Elder Luo giving him books for free, without having to pay for them. In addition, his deal with Long Shi and Yu Zhang'er gave him some GU for free, in addition to the recipes he handed into the sect. The average rank 1 GU master within the Ancient Soul sect completed a mission every few days, a couple even getting seriously hurt, and one dying over the course of the past year. They were not unfamiliar with combat. Bing Ti narrowed his eyes, flicking his hands in quick succession, multiple beams of sword chi aimed directly at the crocodile beast. They flew through the air one after the other, aimed directly at the head of the large beast. The sword path, famous for its offensive prowess, left a few clean cuts on the nose of the crocodile, drawing blood. Song Pei narrowed his eyes for a moment before raising his hand, a faint red glow enveloping his hand. He activated a GU whose name and abilities were unknown to Xuan Yuan, watching as a reaction appeared on the crocodile. The glow similarly appeared on the head of the crocodile, and instantly the situation in the arena changed. The eyes of the crocodile glowed a bright, shining crimson, as its large body suddenly surged forward with a speed surprising of a creature of its size. Within a matter of seconds, the crocodile had already crossed half of the distance between it and Bing Ti. The sword path GU master felt his eyes widen for a moment, but he held his ground, raising his hand to his mouth and blowing, a fine, silverish color mist expanding from his open palm. Song Pei didn't recognize the GU either, but couldn't stop the effects of his crocodile hunger GU from affecting his raging river crocodile. He watched as the beast entered the silver-colored mist, wincing as numerous shallow cuts appeared all over the scales of his raging river crocodile. The effects of Bing Ti's sword mist GU was limited in terms of area of effect and his ability to control it, but anything that walked through would be cut by a mist of fine blades. Bing Ti attempted to circle around the raging river crocodile, continuous breathing out sword mist GU for it to move through. Eventually, he couldn't keep it up anymore and just glanced at Song Pei before breaking out into a full-on sprint. He completely ignored the raging river crocodile, completely covered in bloody cuts, and focused his attention solely on Song Pei. He grimaced as he charged towards his opponent. Shit, I've used too much primeval essence in this fight. I have to end this now, or I risk losing all the other fights today. Song Pei knew that Bing Ti would lose in terms of primeval essence expenditure, and only activated another rank 1 GU, this time, a dull green glow appearing on the raging river crocodile's claws. As if the wind itself were pushing it forward, the rank 1 beast launched itself towards Bing Ti, causing the young man to go wide-eyed and grit his teeth before raising his hands in the air. I forfeit, he said mere moments before the crocodile had him in its jaws. The referee extended his hand, activating another GU that Xuan Yuan had never seen before, watching as the crocodile crashed onto the ground, suppressed by some sort of unknown force. Song Pei let out a small breath, running towards his raging river crocodile and pressing his palm against its head, activating another GU. Its crimson, bloodshot eyes slowly regained a hint of sanity, and it whimpered slightly, feeling the pain from the cuts all over its body. Song Pei just patted its head, before moving his attention back towards Bing Ti. Extending his hand forward, he gave the boy a big smile. You're a strong GU master. If you were rank 2, this fight would have gone very differently. Bing Ti glanced at the raging river crocodile, before nodding, taking Song Pei's hand. If you had GU that matched your rank, it wouldn't have mattered anyway, but thanks I guess. There was still a slight tension in the air, considering that Bing Ti knew that Song Pei was the descendant of an elder, but a level of mutual respect was born between them. Song Pei had received instruction from his grandfather, as well as relic GU to forcibly increase his cultivation, but most of the GU in his possession were his own. He had tamed this raging river crocodile with his own strength, not borrowing it from his grandfather or parents. Despite the fact that he knew Xuan Yuan and the other elder descendants would require more powerful methods, he had defeated his fellow GU master with nothing but his own ability. The sect leader glanced at Elder Song, humming a little, as a smile pulled at the corners of his mouth. Little Pei isn't that bad. It is good that you have instructed them to only use their borrowed strength against the appropriate opponents. More senseless rule breaking wouldn't only damage your reputation, elders, but also their future. Elder Song, Elder Fang and Elder Tai all felt singled out amongst the groups of elders, but Elder Kong just laughed, trying to diffuse the tension. Just lay the blame at Xuan Yuan's feet, sect leader. That little monster is far beyond the rest of the other disciples. You cannot blame Elder Song, Fang and Tai for their actions. Immortal Chu himself said that Xuan Yuan would without a doubt take first place. He, alongside Immortal Song and Immortal D, are all interested in Xuan Yuan. The eyes of the other elders all bulged, while the sect leader just hummed a soft tune, nodding his head. They were not in direct communication with the GU immortals of the sect like Elder Kong was, so hearing that Xuan Yuan of all people had piqued the interest of GU immortals was beyond shocking. Is that why you put his name forward for this generation's abyssal child? He has the backing of 3 immortals behind him? Elder Kong smiled, shaking his head. Immortal Lan also agreed, and so did Immortal Li, but the former on a specific condition, and the latter only because he did not truly walk the poison path. Her exact words were, "It's a shame really, if only I could convince him to walk the poison path as his sub-path." Elder Fang, who was in charge of the Wood Soul Hall, couldn't help but speak up. His tone was a strange mixture of anger and envy. My grandson walks the poison path, and yet she ignored him in favor of that boy. Elder Kong nodded, his thick white eyebrows wagging somewhat. Immortal Li and the others are aware of Xuan Yuan's talent. The boy created his own GU as a rank 2 GU master. He did so while studying the space path under Elder Luo, and the light path and dark path in relation to the shadow path. I also know that the boy has dipped his toes into the moon path, poison path and wisdom path, but has not yet understood the essence of any of these paths. His talent allows him to walk more than path at once, but if he becomes a GU immortal, he will need to comprehend a method of reducing the conflict between 2 different types of Dao marks, otherwise he will be limited to just a single path. He asked Immortal Chu if the sect possessed a second aperture GU, and for the first time in my lifetime, I saw Immortal Chu angry that he had to answer honestly. Elder Kong let out a small sigh. If Xuan Yuan had such a thing, how would he change the world, I wonder? Chapter 32 Xuan Yuan vs. Yu Xiaolong. Published by Web Novel. Xuan Yuan watched a few fights on the platforms, only taking note if a rank 2 GU master was participating in one of the fights. While the chances of them having a rank 2 GU was extremely low, Xuan Yuan knew that it wouldn't do him well to ignore those who managed to cultivate all the way to rank 2 in a single year. Most of them were the descendants of merchants or wealthy GU masters, and could possibly have a rank 2 GU in their possession. Not only did it mean that they had the capacity to match Xuan Yuan in terms of capability, but also meant that he had to be careful in regards to how much primeval essence he used during the fight. Xuan Yuan believed he could end a fight against a rank 1 GU master without having to use too much primeval essence. Unless they had abilities like Bing Ti's sword Miss GU, he could just close the gap slowly and strike, not having to use that much primeval essence. He noted that 2 young girls, a Jia Yufei and a Li Xiaoer, were both rank 2 GU masters, the former walking the fire path and the latter walking the wind path. Both were early stage rank 2 GU masters, and both possessed strong offensive measures. Jia Yufei had in her possession a powerful rank 2 Firefox GU which could track the movements of her targets. One boy, who attempted to move to the side in order to dodge it, had to be carted off to the Light Soul Hall for burn treatment. She received a wide berth after leaving the stage, not even so much as a hair out of place. Li Xiaoer, on the other hand, possessed a rank 2 chasing wind GU, which dramatically increased her running speed for a short duration. Xuan Yuan had learned from the gossip around him that the wind chasing GU was one of the better speed enhancement GU for rank 2. The effect only lasted about 15 seconds, but it more than doubled the speed of the GU master. That, alongside her proficiency in martial arts, made her a force to be reckoned with. Xuan Yuan thought that there were more rank 2 GU masters in the crowd that had yet to participate in their first fight. There were around 120 new disciples this year, and even with 8 fields active at any given point in time, it would still take a couple rounds for Xuan Yuan to get his turn. Platform 4, Yu Xiaolong vs. Xuan Yuan. Or maybe not, he thought. The crowd went silent and the eyes of everyone in the arena landed on Xuan Yuan. Standing up in the crowd, Xuan Yuan glanced at a young man sitting further up from himself, smiling slightly, feeling the ripples of primeval essence come off him. Xuan Yuan could feel the ripples of light red primeval essence come off Yu Xiaolong, evidence of his rank 2 GU master cultivation. The other young man showed an expression of distaste in his opponent, muttering something under his breath before heading down to platform 4. This was the first fight between 2 rank 2 GU masters. All of the others had been fights between rank 1s or a rank 1 GU master against a rank 2. They wanted to see how 2 members of the more privileged class fought. There was a tension in the air that wasn't present in previous matches. Xuan Yuan didn't seem to fazed by it, but the other boy, Yu Xiaolong, just stretched his shoulders, adjusting his breathing. The rank 3 GU master in charge of the platform grimaced for a moment, glancing at Xuan Yuan and Yu Xiaolong. He could literally see the fights on other platforms halt, each of them watching the combatants on his platform. Despite this, however, his professionalism showed as he just nodded, raising an eyebrow at the pair. Are you two ready? He said. Xuan Yuan nodded, not saying anything. Yu Xiaolong nodded too, the glint in his eyes turning serious. The referee just suppressed a sigh, raising his hand up before swinging it down. Begin. Yu Xiaolong burst into motion, activating his vital GU. He was the child of a rank 3 GU master merchant within Earth Soul City, so the breadth of his knowledge regarding GU far exceeded that of most of his peers. Even if it wasn't a rank 2 GU, his vital GU was the strongest offensive power he had currently refined, even injuring his rank 2 GU master trainer, while he was only a rank 1 GU master. Yu Xiaolong thrust forward with his hand, tendrils of electricity rotating around his fingers and forearm. A burst of thunder exploded out from beneath his feet, propelling him halfway across the platform in an instant, creating a large divot where he once stood. Xuan Yuan's eyes widened as he saw Yu Xiaolong instantly bridge half the distance between them in a single leap. He didn't expect him to walk the lightning path, but knew that in terms of speed and offensive prowess, it was perhaps one of the strongest paths in the current era. But Xuan Yuan remained calm, smiling as he activated a single GU. It would have been better if he walked half the distance and then leapt forward. I would have been caught off guard better than Wei, he thought. Most elder descendants knew that Xuan Yuan walked the shadow path, but the regular disciples did not. All of them were entranced by the speed and power of Yu Xiaolong's GU, that they didn't even notice Xuan Yuan's shadow pool around his feet, his fingers gently tapping the air around him. One wouldn't be able to see anything in the air around Xuan Yuan, but his shadow betrayed the trap that he had set. The rank 3 GU master raised an eyebrow at Xuan Yuan's strange finger movements, but felt his eyes widen greatly as he leapt to get in front of Yu Xiaolong. Xuan Yuan's expression didn't change, as Yu Xiaolong ran directly into his net of silhouette strings. Deep lacerations and cuts suddenly appeared all over his arm and upper body, his GU unconsciously deactivating as he screamed, falling to the floor. A loud scream echoed from the arena stands, as a crimson color dyed the platform floor. The rank 3 GU master glanced at Xuan Yuan and grimaced, before raising his hand, gesturing to Xuan Yuan. Winner, Xuan Yuan. He only spoke those words before lifting Yu Xiaolong off the stage and straight towards Elder Bing from Light Soul Hall. The rank 5 Light Path GU master raised her hand, gently brushing it over Yu Xiaolong's wounds, healing them within a matter of moments. Elder Bing frowned somewhat at Xuan Yuan, but he ignored it, glancing at Elder Luo. The Space Path GU master just nodded back at him, causing Xuan Yuan to smile, heading off the stage towards Elder Bing. Yu Xiaolong, despite the fact that he had physically completely recovered, still remembered the physical pain that Xuan Yuan inflicted on him. He didn't have any chance to see what had hit him, before his entire world burst into a deep, searing pain. A small seed of fear was planted in Yu Xiaolong's heart. Seeing Xuan Yuan approach him, he unconsciously retreated back a step, but just watched as Xuan Yuan gave Yu Xiaolong a small bow, before extending his hand towards him. I apologize for the attack. It was excessive for its rank. Your lightning path has developed well, and I unconsciously used it in reaction to your speed. Elder Bing suppressed a snort, hearing the bullshit come out of Xuan Yuan's mouth. He could hear the heartbeats of everyone within several hundred feet, and Xuan Yuan's heart rate never once exceeded 70 beats per minute. It jumped from 50 to 68 after Yu Xiaolong used his Thunderburst GU to close the distance between them, but from her perspective, everything was within his calculations. She didn't voice these concerns, just watching as Yu Xiaolong lifted his head up slightly, surprised by Xuan Yuan's words. You were surprised? Xuan Yuan nodded. I know that the first GU you used was lightning piercing GU, which increasing your piercing power by enhancing it with lightning. I do not recognize the second GU that you used, but if you had used it a few seconds after closing the distance between us, you would have been able to strike me in an instant. I thought if you used the GU again in quick succession, you would have immediately ended the fight. The lightning path is one of the most offensive paths in the current era, alongside the sword path, fire path, metal path and blood path. However, in terms of speed, it exceeds the rest of them. I do not know about more flexible methods of offensive lightning path techniques, but from these two factors alone, you are dangerous Yu Xiaolong. If it were anyone else, you probably would have won. Elder Bing raised an eyebrow, not feeling any lies in Xuan Yuan's words. She could feel heartbeats, and could detect irregularities in their rhythm, but felt no disturbance from Xuan Yuan. She was a little upset from Xuan Yuan's heavy-handedness, knowing that he just let Yu Xiaolong run into his threads. He hadn't even moved from his initial starting position, and yet he had just won after messing around with a couple of finger movements. Yu Xiaolong on the other hand seemed even more surprised by Xuan Yuan's analysis of his abilities. He had recognized the first GU he had used, his vital GU, while he didn't even know what path of GU Xuan Yuan had used. Thinking back, if he had crossed most of the distance without using GU, and then surprised Xuan Yuan, it is possible that he could have ended the fight then and there. Nodding, he took Xuan Yuan's hand, shaking it firmly. I thought that you were just a lucky guy who managed to catch the eye of an elder. But you were quite smart, you know that. Xuan Yuan just smiled, glancing at Elder Bing for a moment. It's my best trait, or so I'm told. Yu Xiaolong chuckled before giving Elder Bing a deep bow, returning with Xuan Yuan to the stands. Despite having just given him extremely deep wounds for a meager fight, he was already asking Xuan Yuan questions about the lightning path. He didn't realize how approachable Xuan Yuan was until after speaking with him. Even though he walked a different path, Yu Xiaolong could immediately tell that Xuan Yuan was much more knowledgeable than anyone else realized. If you possessed a Thunder Spear GU, it would probably increase your combat effectiveness the most, although you would need to be proficient in such a weapon. Range methods are also useful. Thunderball GU is a pretty common offensive rank 1 lightning path GU, but is limited in terms of area of effect and accuracy. Something like Thunder Wave GU, which affects an area around the GU master, or Lightning Bomb GU, which can be thrown and affects a small area, are both quite useful. You will not be pressed for choice if you walk the lightning path, and supportive elements are more important in the long run. Yu Xiaolong blinked, not fully understanding Xuan Yuan's words. Supportive lightning path GU, but I thought that the lightning path is a purely offensive path. You have to use other types of GU in tandem with the lightning path in order to strengthen it? Xuan Yuan shook his head, letting out a small sigh. That is partially true, but all paths possess a myriad number of GU. The most common supportive type GU is probably something like Lightning Soul GU or Thunder Spirit GU. Both of them redefine the shape of your soul, so that it is more akin to the essence of lightning. Similarly, there is Lightning Chi GU, which increases the effectiveness of all lightning path GU. Both of these GU are from the soul path and the chi path respectively. However, pure lightning path supportive GU are a little bit more nuanced than that. Xuan Yuan started listing things off on his fingers. You have Quick Nerves GU, which can increase the speed of your thoughts using lightning. Electric Barrier GU, which is uniquely effective against Metal Path and Sword Path GU. Thunder Fire GU, which can transform your regular lightning into a more offensive Thunder Fire. Lightning Strikes Forest GU, which can heal wounds using lightning. Lightning is Hair GU, which can be used both defensively and offensively. Thunder Taunt GU, which uses lightning to attract the thoughts of nearby opponents. And lastly, and my personal favorite, Shadows is Lightning GU. Yu Xiaolong leaned forward, having never heard such a GU before. In fact, he hadn't heard of most of the GU Xuan Yuan had told him. Shadows as lightning can transform your shadow into lightning temporarily. While this occurs, you yourself will gain lightning-like qualities for the duration that the GU is active. The number of qualities will increase the higher the rank of GU. Essentially, it is a method of transforming yourself into lightning. Yu Xiaolong felt an entire world open before his very eyes. The lightning path was slowly revealing itself, peeling back the curtain using Xuan Yuan's words. Chapter 33 Potential of a Path. Published by Web Novel. Elder and Elder Hu both nodded smiling as they watched Xuan Yuan interact with Yu Xiaolong, muttering about the lightning path, and the possibilities that Yu Xiaolong could take to further his own attainment. Attainment was a concept primarily used by rank 5 GU masters or higher. It was more than just a measurement of how an individual had grasped the profundities relating to a specific path, but also generated a passive form of intuition relating to that specific path. It was possible for this intuition to develop further, but that was for those who had attained a grandmaster level attainment or higher in a single path. Right now, Xuan Yuan had yet to become a master in the shadow path, but Elder Luo and Elder Hu were both sure that he was at least a quasi-master. As far as they were both aware, there wasn't a single other quasi-master rank 2 GU master in the entire sect. Not only had Xuan Yuan achieved this with no backing or formal teacher, but also within the span of a single year. It had only taken him 12 months to become a quasi-master in the shadow path. Not to mention the fact that he is still researching other paths, Elder Luo thought. When Elder Kong mentioned the second aperture GU, Elder Luo's heart soared thinking of the possibilities. If Xuan Yuan possessed such a thing, he wouldn't be limited to just the shadow path if he became a GU immortal. 2 apertures meant 2 vital GU. 2 apertures meant 2 blessed lands. 2 apertures allowed him to walk 2 paths. It also meant that he would receive twice the returns on his calamities and tribulations, but also twice the danger. But Xuan Yuan would be able to handle it, he thought. Of this, Luo Yu was sure. While Elder Luo was entranced with his thoughts, the sect leader just showed a small smile nodding as he watched Xuan Yuan interact with Yu Xiaolong. He didn't particularly take Elder Kong seriously when he heard he wanted the boy to be this generation's abyssal child, but after hearing several different GU immortals' names being mentioned, he couldn't help but be intrigued by the boy. He had seen him fight, albeit for a brief moment, with another rank 2 GU master, and despite the fact that he knew what Xuan Yuan had done, he couldn't think of the name of the GU he had used. Its range was quite short, barely 10 feet, but it was a radius around Xuan Yuan, not just in a single direction. It was a powerful counter to close quarters type GU masters. If they even tried to approach Xuan Yuan, they would be cut by thin, yet extraordinarily sharp strings of shadow. The worst thing about them that they wouldn't be able to see it if they weren't focusing on Xuan Yuan's shadow. The sect leader didn't know that Xuan Yuan was the one who completed the GU recipe, but Elder Kong and Elder Guo both smiled, the latter stroking his beard as he tried to listen to Xuan Yuan's conversation. Even if the boy knows nothing of the true potential of the lightning path, his knowledge of GU is quite deep. I don't remember the last time someone mentioned the Thunder Taunt GU to me. Elder Kong nodded, his thick white eyebrows rising a fraction of an inch. Xuan Yuan has already begun striving towards the zenith of the shadow path, his intentions and desires pure and straightforward. However, it is slightly concerning just how many paths he is exploring at once. Light, dark, moon, wisdom, poison, space, refinement. Perhaps it is nothing, but even that is too many. We risk him diverging from his original path if he tries to explore too many at once. The elder's mind flashed back to the second aperture GU, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Even if they managed to obtain the GU, there would be endless conflict as the other members of the 10 great sects tried to get their hands on it. Even if they were all members of the righteous path, competition still existed between each and every one of them. If Xuan Yuan's talents became widespread, and it was known that he possessed multiple apertures, perhaps he would become the target of more than just demonic GU masters. It would be better if we just leave those thoughts to rest, Elder Kong thought. Seeing Xuan Yuan apologize, and then guide Yu Xiaolong towards the right step in his lightning path made him and the other elders smile. Xuan Yuan was the future of the ancient soul sect, of that much he was completely sure. More of the fights continued until the beginning of the second round started. There were only a couple serious injuries, but the vast majority of them were healed by Elder Bing before anyone was crippled or worse. Seeing Bing Ti from the first round of fights head up for his second match, Xuan Yuan came to a realization. Ah, so they are testing us on our martial arts as well? Once all of the rank 1 GU masters are out of primeval essence, they will be forced to physical fight each other to win. Eventually, even their stamina will run out, forcing them to drop out of the tournament. The tournament was less about determining who was the best in individual fights, and more about who could last the longest. Rank 2 GU masters had the greatest advantage from this perspective, considering even if they used rank 1 GU, they could use their GU more than a rank 1 GU master. Xuan Yuan had used rank 1 silhouette strings GU in order to beat Yu Xiaolong, so his primeval essence usage had barely scratched the surface. Even then, he had a rank 1 cloud essence GU to convert primeval energy directly into primeval essence. It was invaluable in letting Xuan Yuan fight for longer. The otherworldly demon made note of the other rank 2 GU masters in the tournament, particularly their paths, as well as any GU that they had shown. Song Pei used the same strategy in his previous fight, this time, his opponent barely doing any damage to his raging river crocodile before the beast eventually caught up to him, forcing the referee to interfere. Fang Kai, the grandson of Fang Long, actually was a poison path GU master, which greatly surprised Xuan Yuan. He used a combination of poison needle GU and venomous claw GU to overwhelm and defeat his opponent. Tai Yong was a fire path GU master like Jia Yufei and used a combination of martial arts and his vital GU, a rank 1 fire cloak GU, to overwhelm his opponent with sheer heat and his physical size. Tai Yong was very much like his father, Elder Tai, a tall, yet also round-looking young man. He lacked the facial hair and wrinkles, but otherwise appeared a copy of his father. His twin sister, Tai Yin, on the other hand, appeared soft, gentle, and, if Xuan Yuan was being perfectly honest, the most developed figure of any girl his age. He noticed more than a few eyes, including Yu Xiaolong's, linger on her figure as she left the stage. The girl was surprisingly a sword path GU master. She didn't follow after her father and walk the water path, showing the skill and comprehension of the sword path far beyond that of Bing Ti. Her vital GU was a rank 1 sword shadow GU, which was, from Xuan Yuan's understanding of the sword path, a GU with one of the strongest offensive capabilities at any rank. No matter if it was rank 2 or even rank 3, Tai Yin's sword shadow GU would exceed any single GU in terms of piercing power. She alone made Xuan Yuan the most wary in the entire tournament. Peak rank 2 GU master cultivation and a rank 1 sword shadow GU. In addition, she might possess other rank 2 GU given to her by Elder Tai. If that is the case, then she is the most dangerous GU master out of the entire batch of new disciples. Xuan Yuan was interested in the sword shadow GU, primarily because he thought it was also a shadow path GU. He had seen a shadowless sword GU with his own eyes, but never a sword shadow GU or a shadow sword GU. There were minute differences between all three, but that wasn't what Xuan Yuan was interested in. Does sword shadow GU contain both shadow path and sword path profundities? Without a doubt it is a sword path GU, but why shadow? Is it because it is so fast that you can only see its shadow? Or is there something else about it that gives it its name? Xuan Yuan kind of wanted a sword shadow GU of his own, after he had seen Tai Yin use it. Like how Xuan Yuan had did earlier, she merely flicked her fingers softly, producing an incredibly fast black beam of sword G. The black beam of sword G didn't possess any shadow that Xuan Yuan could see, and instead pierced straight through her opponent, eventually dissipating into wisps, causing Xuan Yuan to raise an eyebrow. Her second fight was against a rank 1 earth path GU master, who conjured an earthen shield on his arm. He started charging towards Tai Yin, but similarly, felt his shield punctured, and his stomach cut open from the sword shadow. Xuan Yuan narrowed his eyes at that particular fight, knowing that Tai Yin another GU in order to enhance the offensive power of her sword shadow GU. A combination like that should be able to thread and dense shadow blade GU without the use of bright red light GU. Its speed is immense for rank 1, and the cutting power is beyond that of any other GU I have seen. The otherworldly demon had a few tricks up his sleeve, but just moved his gaze away from Tai Yin, instead focusing on Yu Xiaolong's second bout. The young man had asked Xuan Yuan more than a dozen questions about the lightning path, to the point where even Xuan Yuan had to shake his head, shrugging his shoulders. Most of the others his age had never thought about compatibility between GU,